We're Robin and Steve. Early in 2025, we returned to our island home in Tasmania. But not for long. After catching up with beautiful people and scrubbing our boat, we were off to sail around Australia. We mainly wanted to see the Kimberley, but that's pretty far from Tassie. So, circumnavigating Australia it was. Sailing down the west coast of Australia was hard. Now we've done that. Our next challenge is to sail across the Great Australian Bight. We expect some tough times and sleep deprivation in our near future. We're at Middle Island, near Esperance, and I'll read you some notes from my journal. It's beautiful out here. We slept well in the little bay between Goose and Middle Islands. A grand streaky dome of granite graces the headland, luring us to find the track to the lookout. The thick heath was tough to push through, given that we were about to sail across the Great Australian Bight. We were content to shuffle along the sparkling strata by the shore. Then it was time to deflate the kayak and sail for many days across the Great Australian Bight. We headed east-ish, not knowing where we'd end up on the other side. Soon the water below us went from tens of metres to a kilometre deep. At first the seas were rolly and winds gusted to 30 knots. But having waited for weeks in Albany, we now had the best weather window we could hope for. After dodging the last islands, we bid Western Australia farewell and settled into our new home, the Southern Ocean. Soon the winds were behind us, in gusts of varying strengths, but always in rolly seas. And I would use the roll of the boat to go for a little walk. The days ticked by, and separately, Steve and I had both decided to change destinations, from St. Francis Island to Williams Island. This would mean another day at sea before we saw land, but that at the other end, we'd have shelter from some nasty upcoming weather. We changed course to 94 degrees magnetic, overlapped for a vegetable pasta feast, and then returned to lone time, taking turns being on watch. During my 3 a.m. watch, I listened to an audiobook, The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. And once it got light, I'd rid the deck of flying fish who could no longer fly. From time to time, I was awashed with the realisation that this could be the last multi-day passage we do in this boat, because we're heading home. It's easy to get a bit emotional when you're by yourself, but mostly I felt grateful. Apart from a few squalls, conditions were pretty great. We left our whisker pole out on the starboard side and swapped genoa from side to side as the wind angle shifted, and tweaked our wind vane as necessary to stay on course. We spent 5.5 days and 5 nights at sea, with a small moon that waned to no moon, but a sky full of stars. As far as sailing passages across the Great Australian Bight go, our trip was blissfully uneventful. I'm not saying it was easy. After a few days we were quite sleep deprived and longing for a hot shower. But we were used to the fact that at sea, even little things like getting dressed are quite challenging. And in these latitudes, it's cold. Every 4 hours, one of us stumbles out of bed and puts on a million layers and a life jacket as the Southern Ocean bucks us like a ride in an amusement park. I gather what I need, climb up the swaying ladder, and stow things in the cockpit, my office for the next 4 hours, while Steve gets much needed rest for 4 hours.
Okay. Go on.
Thank you. I try to do a bit of a ballet bar, with my head squashed against the bimini. It's inelegant, but better than nothing. After our 5th night at sea, we could see land. And it was my dad's birthday. I couldn't give him cake, but I could tell him that we'd safely crossed the Great Australian Bight, which I know is not as good as cake. William's Island seemed like it would be a good anchorage, and we were longing for an uninterrupted sleep. But it was too rolly to even get ashore, and there was bad weather on the way. We stopped very briefly, long enough to see some seals on the rocks, and to agree that this was not a good anchorage for the conditions ahead. Sleep would have to wait. We sailed another 23 nautical miles. We were in a whole new state now, South Australia. We're on the Aiyo Peninsula, land of the Nau, Bangala and Wirangu peoples. After 5.5 days being boatbound, we were pretty stoked to find such great walking tracks. And were less excited about the huge number of flies. It was wonderful to walk again. And to climb again. It had been a long time since my last dangle. We spent a couple of days recovering and waiting out some windy weather and learning more about what Matthew Flinders went through on this inhospitable coastline. More about that next time. Once weather allowed, we sailed on towards Port Lincoln, weaving through many islands on the way. And after seeing no other boats for many days, we found ourselves weaving through a sailing race. And then into the huge port of Port Lincoln. And I'll leave off here, having sailed 660 nautical miles over 5.5 days across the Great Australian Bight, which, if we're honest about it, was pretty uneventful. So we're going to end this video with a montage, because we found some footage on Steve's action camera that never made it to my hard drive. Enjoy this bit of Western Australia as seen through Steve's action camera. Next time, we'll island hop to Adelaide, get a train to Melbourne and back, get swallowed up by an algal bloom, visit Kangaroo Island, and then head to Victoria. Weirdly, home doesn't seem that far away now.